update a little bit every year.
I'm not sure numbers so much, but for example, Emerald Ash Borer doesn't appear, unless I'm missing it, it doesn't appear to be in the plan anymore. There's nothing in here.
Wilson Drive, $1 million more.
There's nothing in here for parks.
So we keep that
I
recycling.
mean, I'd like to just, I find a year-to-year comparison just as like, well, are we not doing Emerald Ash Borer? I think one of the lining, the annual lining is no longer.
I can answer those questions if you'd like to ask them.
Okay, what, in terms of just projects, what was in there last year that is no longer in here? Emerald Ash.
Well, last year, we listed Emerald Ash Borer as a separate line item and had a deduction because those were actually largely funded by property tax dollars. So with our intent to focus on debt, that line was omitted, and any Emerald Ash Borer costs related to street reconstruction themselves, not the treatment components, will be built into the street reconstruction.
Okay, so that we're not getting rid of the program, we're still doing it, it's just.
Right, and again, the details of that program will be presented in the annual budgets, but,
Okay, what about?
and sewer lining, the sewer now is in a position financially to fund those projects themselves. We no longer need to borrow for those projects.
Okay, so there's cash funding
Cash funding.
and parks.
Parks has no identified plans at this point, so most of their needs in the horizon are within the scope that we funded annually through property taxes, $30,000 to $50,000, that kind of nature.
What capital-
Not eligible for debt funding.
What capital reserves, basically? Paid out of capital reserves?
No, paid out of tax money,
Annual budget.
annual budget.
Operating capital.
Yeah, they will vie for all, vie against police squads, vie against DPW equipment for available funds and resources and prioritization. Because they're just not eligible for debt financing.
Okay.
So I've, again, tried to really focus the scope of this presentation and the long-range plan in its entirety to the debt issue, the debt, tax impacts.
Right, and that the reflection of switching parks, in the past, there has been capital requests for parks, but it's because of the types of improvements.
They're doing path improvements.
Exactly, now it's path improvement, and so it's not appropriate for
Correct.
bonding.
Now, you also notice that there's no provisional TID funding request in this plan. Again, my preference is not to fund for projects that are hypothetical. It's to stick to, we've got enough to do with stuff that's in front of us. And if something new comes up and develops to a point where it needs to be included in next year's plan, because we do see it on the horizon and the board has an interest in furthering those, then we'll put those in as those projects are identified. So, yes.
So when we get to the more non-debt component in the long-range plan, the operating budget, is there going to be a budget? I mean, you're going to base it off current capital, non-debt projects? I just want to make sure there's some resources allocated.
Right, the resources that are allocated in the long-range plan are aggregate summary numbers, which is pretty much anything that's not debt financed is in the annual operating budget. So there'll be no details presented, but just a conceptual presentation that we expect 3% growth in cost of implementing our projects based on where we were at some point in time, and we just project that out.
One other thing, so when I did do the comparisons, it is kind of interesting to, if you do the comparisons from last year, to see like the sewers plan, went down 5 million. So, and then we could ask, if we knew that without doing the research ourselves, we could ask what changed, and can someone just let us know why that number went down from last year, the projection of the total cost for that project over 10 years. Same thing with Wilson Drive, it went up.
Well, sure. Well, with the updated sewer planning presentation that came before the board recently, we obtained newer, what we believe is more contemporary estimates of what implementation of that project will ultimately cost. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, those numbers will change again. But, you know, we try to really give it a good, reasonable, we don't want to short it, we don't want to over it, but they're real general estimates without the board's approval on specific design and implementation metrics.
But
So,
the updated information showed an alternative design that would result in possibly a $5 million savings on that.
At
So
least.
it's- Yeah,
at least, yeah.
right, and we just had that.
Now, Wilson Drive, we've got some preliminary, what are they, 30% estimates now for?
Yes.
So we've got hard numbers, and we, or better estimates per se,
It's just
Our
interesting
numbers
that it's
are-
another $1 million, so.
Bids as built.
yeah.
The first number was a placeholder that was put in the long-range financial plan probably 5 years ago. It was a placeholder, yeah.
So, and by all means, we will continue to endeavor to prove this, but being proactive at the onset of the budgeting season, and in many, many cases, well in advance of any engineering estimates. I mean, we're dealing with round numbers and just, you know, within the conceptual framework of our, you know, general expertise, you know, what we think will end up with.
Can you give us the over, I mean, so we could, I'd like to hear what you, going out, are you thought, on the chart, are you gonna walk
Okay,
us
so
through this chart?
on this chart,
And the chart, you're talking about the chart that's up there.
it's on the page. So we've got our existing debt, and that's based off of bonds that are already issued, plus I have added in now the existing debt schedule, an anticipated payback for the refuse equipment. Remember, there's a reimbursement resolution, and the board has authorized purchase of those, nearly $1 million of refuse equipment. That's a 10-year note, so I built that into our existing because that project, this plan is not contemplated as a future action. And as I say that, my light bulb goes on, and I would bet you to say that that will explain 90% of the variance between those plans.
Exactly, thank you. And that's interesting to know, so we understand what since it was planned in 2018 and we did it anyways in 2017, why the change.
So that's why it's in our existing net and not in projections, because I think last year it was in future. So we've got some metrics for total levy funded debt service needs on line 4, looking out from 2017, which is current schedule. The reason 2018 doesn't change is that by the time we issue our 2018 bonds, we will not have any debt payments due until 2019. And that's been a premise as long as I've been here, that it's done that way strategically so that we can budget as effectively instead of having 2018 budget issuing debt early in 2018, not knowing what the outcome of that's going to be, and then having variances in the current operating year. So we've always issued after July 1st. That typically puts the first payment on those bonds is 2019, and then we can update it accordingly. So the first impact of the project plan on the preceding pages really comes in 2019. And again, that's only from that yellow section. That's levy funded debt. And then that's scheduled out through 2027. So in total, we show on line 4, the total levy funded debt service needs based on this implementation schedule. We show a difference in dollars, a change in percentages, and we show a reference to the gross debt service cost per household, assuming the average assessed household value is $300,000. Then the middle section starts talking about,
Hold on for a second.
okay,
That average, that cost per household,
Doesn't change.
you keep that $300,000 steady over the whole 10-year period?
He's doing.
Yes,
All of our impacts, we don't escalate it.
yeah.
And is that just the village portion or is it the total?
That's the levy,
Well, that's the
levy
levy, so
funded
that's the
debt
village
service.
portion, right?
What was it? I can't do my own research because I can't find it. Is it the same as it was projected last year, or is it gone up? Based on the new numbers?
Without looking, I venture to say it has gone up because again, we've added a pretty aggressive schedule here.
Yeah. And we borrowed mid-year, so that's my interest, is to know what that did to our debt service. It's on page 6.
That's page 6, you said?
Estimated tax bill.
Well, this is just debt service.
It's not really comparable because there's no, this is total. so it
It would be
doesn't-
on page 5, line 13 of last year's plan,
Moderate levy used in plan.
which is the last line, so 2017 it projects 356, so that is effectively unchanged. 2018, 372, now it's 383, 384 and 19, now it's 406. So again, with this aggressive project plan, it has gone up, although in the latter years, it does drop off a little bit because of the fact that we're front loading some of these projects and the way that service, the payments go. Plus all the other changes as previously noted and differences between the project plans.
I have on page 5, line 13, it says moderate levy used in plan. What are you on? The 2017 to 2026.
Page 6.
6, line 13.
No, wait, what the heck? Now you got me even.
I think you just have the total, I don't think debt service is every
Page
single-
3, page 3, I misspoke,
Oh, okay,
There,
that's
there.
just cost per household, okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Over 2018.
4, 6. Yeah, so it's more.
And does that, and that's just because we're incorporating more money in the,
Well, also drive on from 1.5 to 2.5, and
yeah. And we moved up.
roads bumped from 1.5 to 2 in 2018.
I was gonna ask you, I noticed that trend, is it the concrete's going, is, you know, the cost of building a road more expensive now? Is it, do you see it's significant?
To an extent, but I don't know. I think it is more an issue that when the payment management plan was adopted in 2009, it set a funding level goal of $2.25 million per project. There's been, you know, the board has discretion at that funding level, and they've exercised that discretion in the past. And so in certain years, they've increased the amount, and in other years, they've decreased the amount. I think that's more the driver than industry pricing.
Then in the middle section, lines 8 through 19, on this schedule, we try to quantify a topic that we brought up during last year's budget hearing, and that is the concept of debt service stabilization. Because we know that we've got some significant spikes, particularly in the next, well, starting with this year and then in the next couple of years in our debt service, change in debt service. So the concept was to smooth out those increases to a consistent 5% year-over-year level for when we do our budgets. We use our general fund reserves that was adopted in the 2017 budget, use general fund reserves to reduce the amount of tax levy needed for debt service to a 5% amount over the previous year. And I did similar schedules last year, so this schedule shows the updated amounts of what it takes on line 9 to maintain that year-over-year 5% max increase. Line 10 shows the difference between that number and our projected debt service needs. Line 11 is a running balance of those totals. And then line 12 is the impact of applying that principle over this plan between what the gross debt service costs are on line 7 versus what I'm referring to as a stabilized debt service cost per household on